Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We're on time today. That's right. The podcast is on time. I am here with Jamie Moran. We have three monster-sized topics to get into. And Jamie, man, I know you're a pinch under the weather, but it's really great to see you here. How are you feeling, brother?
Hey, man, happy to be here. Yeah, a little bit sick, but, I'll get through it. I'm excited. We have a bunch of good topics to talk about, positive stuff. And look, we got a new Metro game announced, which I've been waiting for years. So,
Yes.
and Replaced came out today, which I've been waiting 5 years for. So we're in for a good time.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And I'm going to be playing Replace. It's downloaded. It's ready to rock and roll. Look, I had made mention of and I'll throw this out in the open, and what I'll do is I'll reaffirm it on the back end. One of the things that Mrs. Boom and I find that we enjoy doing is helping small devs and giving back to the community. Something that we did with not Metro. What was the game that came out that was like the Metro game by the team out of
Stalker 2?
Yes, thank you, sir. If you guys remember, we gave away, I believe it was 20 copies. It could have been 15, but I believe it was 20. That came out of our own pocket. We spent, I think, over $1,200 on that giveaway. We don't do that often because it's 2026 and everything's expensive, and we are saving for our first home. But what we are doing now, this is not sponsored by the developer of of that game. We are going to do something for the Replaced developers that they don't even know about, and we're not going to even contact them because we don't really need a pat on the ass like that. We're just happy to do nice things. I think Replace has been a game a lot of people have been excited for a long time. So my long-winded story ends up with that we are giving away 10 copies of this game. The 10 copies we're going to purchase with our own money, and we're going to give those away on Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom. That's normally where we do our giveaways. I don't want to give it away today because obviously we usually do our giveaways at the end of the week for Friday for a lot of reasons, but for the main reason is that it's much easier to do it on the last day of the week of shows. So yes, I'm going to be doing some advertising in the next couple of days. I believe the studio, it's Sad Cat Studios. Is that the maker? Yeah, Sad Cat Studios. They're not aware that we're doing this. We don't need them to be aware. I mean, obviously, if someone reaches out to them and say, "Hey, this podcast is giving away 10 of your copies," maybe they'll give us, some 5 of their own to give away. I don't know, but we when we do these things, we do them from the heart. So we are going to be giving away 10 copies. And you might be asking yourself, new chat member, maybe you just, you found the podcast, or maybe you've been here for years. It's super easy. You don't got to do anything. You simply got to be in the chat. Put the hashtag that Mrs. Boom and I have under lock and key that we'll put out there on Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom. And if the picker from StreamYard's picture, it's your game, we'll send it over to you. If you're outside of the United States and I can't find an international code, we'll send you the winnings and you go and buy the copy yourself. We're one of the few actual podcasts that welcome in and also celebrate our international viewers. So if you are someone, let's say across the pond like Jamie Moran, and you do win, if we can't get you an international or worldwide code, we'll send you the money and we pay everything. You don't pay for anything. We literally send you the money, you buy the game, you're good, golden, that's it. So that's what we're going to do on Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom. It's our first big giveaway. It's going to cost us a little over $200 to do, and we can't do that, ladies and gentlemen, without you fine folks in the chat who continuously not only drop super chats, our channel members, and also gift memberships. So if you guys and gals want these things to continue, Well, obviously, we can't do any of this without you. Obviously, we are saving for our first home, and whatever we get, we do tuck away. I mean, of course, at the end of the year, there's the big ones, but we want to try and sprinkle in a couple of smaller ones throughout the year, like we were doing a couple of years ago. I know things are tough for everybody, so we want to help out as much as we can. And of course, again, we just love doing it. So thank you for listening to my spiel, and I'll remind you guys and gals throughout the remainder of the week and maybe like maybe on till Thursday. Hey, listen, show up tomorrow. You don't even got to be sub to the channel. I know that's like a big no for a lot of people. Just show up, man. If you throw the hashtag in and it picks you, you win. That's it. No strings attached. No funny business. But hey, JFX88 has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. That is very kind of you, my brother. Thank you so much for the generosity. He has done that quite a bit. We definitely appreciate that, JFX88 in the chat. But chat, Jamie Moran, we got a couple of really big stories. Now, of course, we are awaiting, and I don't want to say slumber because he works midnights, ladies and gentlemen, but Umbra, he should be here. He didn't say he wasn't going to be here. Usually when he's too tired, he'll message me or he'll call me and be like, hey, Boom, I'm down for the count. So he might be here, but Jamie Moran in chat, let's get into this first one. Now, look, I'm kind of smiling on the outside. I'm kind of really smiling on the inside. I got a post here from Charlie Intel on X. Now, Jez Corden of Windows Central, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Rand Althor, has been a busy man in the last week. He has reported on a numerous amount of information coming out of Xbox, but this one is so important. It's something that Jamie and I and many people in the Xbox community have been banging the drum on for months, even years, since the multi-platform ideology hit Xbox. Well, according to Charlie Intel, who posted this on April 14th, which of course is today, 8 a.m. as a matter of fact, Xbox are reportedly considering a return to exclusives. What he has here is a quote from Jez Corden. Jez said this on the Xbox 2 podcast with Rand Althor, and quote, there are very, very big discussions regarding exclusivity internally at Xbox. Now, there's not a lot to go on over here, right? We're going to segue into a topic about Asha and what she's going to do with Xbox Game Pass and an internal memo that was somehow made public. I think it's an accidental leap, but we'll get to that when we get to the second topic of the show. But Jamie, you and I and Umbra and many people on my panels have been talking about exclusivity coming back in some form and some fashion for quite some time. I have always been in the camp where I felt exclusives mattered. You've heard me say this more times than I could probably count on 2 hands. I never liked the idea of the burgers, fries, and shakes going over to PlayStation. You've heard Asante make mention of it in that way, meaning Halo, Gears, and Forza. Well, Halo is going to be getting over there. The question is, will Forza and Fable and Gears of War E-Day stay exclusive? So I saw a lot of people talking in the chat earlier, and of course, listen, this is what we love, having you guys and gals in the chat. You talk with each other. Everyone's respectful. I absolutely love that about this chat. And the conversation that continues right now is that most people think, and I'm right there with you, that it's going to be some sort of timed exclusive. You heard me say this yesterday talking about Fable. I think Xbox is in a position to have its cake and eat it too, Jamie. What do I mean by that? Well, I think if you look at the other side, and I'm not talking about Nintendo. Nintendo has for years walked to the beat of their own drum, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And their exclusivity is always going to be the way it is. Now, Sony, there is a rumor that they have completely, turned the wheel or steered out of the way of putting their games on Xbox and recently reported on PC. Is that official? Well, not really, but we're going to get more information on that in May when they have their financial breakdown, right? That's happening next month. For me personally, I do think there is a way for Xbox and its brass to honor and put forward or put forth its Xbox community first, and then at some point involve the PlayStation community with releasing over there. I saw people talk about this, about timed exclusivity, and I think it is a happy medium. Would I love Xbox to keep all of these bangers on their own platform? Man, it'd be a world, right? Because for many years, if you go back to like the early, well, not even so much the early, if you go back to like the late years of the Xbox One X and S generation, before what we have now in the Series X and S, they had good exclusives, but they don't have exclusives like they have now. And a lot of the Xbox, the diehard bleed green kind of guys, well, we've been waiting for them to have this kind of output. And, when you have nearly 30 studios, you can do that. Some are really big, like Call of Duty, which is a multi-plat for a lot of reasons. But, when you talk about big, Forza Horizon 6, Gears of War E-Day, Fable's going to be a really big one, right? Blade is going to be big when it potentially releases next year. State of Decay 3 could be a big game, right? They have a lot of rounds in the chamber, so to speak, Jamie. So when I say they can have their cake and eat it too, I think that they could double down on exclusivity, even if it's timed. You keep, or I should say, you put your platform as priority number one, which is something they got away with the last couple of years, right? And I know, listen, this is not a pushback or throw under the bus moment for Phil or Sarah. No, we understand. And if you do this game like me and Jamie and Umbra and many of the podcasters that you listen to on a daily basis, we keep our ears to the floor. Now, we all can say definitively, Jamie, that the pressures from Amy Hood and Satya Nadella caused them to be forced to do things that we heard Matt Booty did not want to do. Now, again, I don't know that for sure. This is just a rumor that's floating around, but he was one of the C-level executives that did not want exclusivity taken away. Obviously, it was. It started out with just 4 games. Now, I believe Phil Spencer that when he said that, he wasn't lying, folks. He believed and he aimed to release only those 4 games. And when a couple of those games became a little successful, that's where the additional pressure from the higher-ups came from. But this new affirmation, if you will, Jamie, I think is all leading to the new leadership. And I have to continue to say and go back to Asha Sharma when she was specifically asked or pressed about exclusivity. The plan is the plan until it's not the plan. Well, it appears, Jamie, that it is no longer the plan, because when you take exclusivity away and your games are everywhere and everyone's playing them and the world is kumbaya and there's unicorns and rainbows on every corner, that's awesome. You know what happens? Nobody buys your hardware, man. And what we've seen for the last, 6 or 7 quarters is that the Xbox hardware keeps losing in double-digit percentage. Why is that? Because you don't need an Xbox to play Gears, Halo, Fable, Forza. Well, maybe a change of ideology fixes that, because not only do they have to sell hardware this year to bring new players in that are going to be upgrading so they can play Grand Theft Auto 6 in November. What they have to do, and what must be a priority, Jamie, is to get people to buy their next generation hardware, which is releasing next year. I want to get your thoughts on this, man.
Man, there's a lot to unpack here.
It's a conversational podcast. Go crazy.
You know, if you go back a couple of years ago, when we were told, oh, it's the 4 games thing, right? Never expects, that these 4 games will lead to anything else, right? And I thought, you know what? That ain't bad. That isn't bad, because you said, hey, Starfield and Indiana Jones aren't those 4 games. And these 4 games aren't any indication of, future games going multi-platform. And I thought, right, nice. Cool way to put it like that. And I thought we were all settled. And about 7 minutes after that stream, I think it was called the Business Podcast Update, because remember, over the Christmas, everyone was panicking. We couldn't enjoy Christmas. We had to have stupid rumors. We had that, or Microsoft had that business podcast thing. And like 7 minutes after that it ended, The Verge had this interview with Phil Spencer. And it was asked, so will Starfield and Indiana Jones never be on other platforms? He said, oh, well, I'm not saying that. So, and I had the biggest face palm in the history of face palms. Like, so we were told one thing, and a couple of minutes later, we read something else, right? And the biggest problem this entire generation, in fact, it's been going on for longer than anything, Microsoft's problem isn't studios anymore. It's not video games. It's not quality. It's messaging, right? And messaging around the whole exclusivity thing has been a miss. Let's be honest, right? Microsoft's game portfolio has came a long way. Last year, they put out almost a dozen games, right? From new games, remasters, remakes, right? It was a very good year for games last year. Now, if you were to pop up your console with, hey, this is our console for this year and our games for this year, they had a really impressive lineup. Really impressive. And originally they wanted to put out one big game every quarter, right? And now they are doing that, right? Basically, they're getting to that point. And, hell, Microsoft announced on a random Wednesday Minecraft Dungeons 2. Some people might think that's not a big deal, but Minecraft Dungeons was pretty big.
It was awesome. I played the hell out of that game, dude.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, it's basically Minecraft Diablo.
Yeah.
And it works, but it's a big game. And I think that, Microsoft, like, you don't change leadership unless you want things to change, right? Because if they got Asha Sharma in and said, hey, do exactly what Phil Spencer was doing, then that means Microsoft was 100% happy with what was going on, right? But you have these people online, and this is, I don't know why people always say this, it's an optics thing, where they'll say, Microsoft doesn't care about console sales. Microsoft isn't a non-profit organization. They just don't make hardware willy-nilly just to give away, right? They want consoles to sell, right? And I think that, if you look at Xbox, like, they put their games on other platforms. And look, in an ideal world, it would be great if we could play every game on everything. It'd be cool if you could pick up your Xbox controller and play a Zelda. Pick up your PlayStation controller, play Smash Brothers, play Gears of War on your Switch, right? That would be lovely. Bloody lovely. But we don't live in that ideal world. We really don't, right? My house isn't made out of chocolate. I don't get cider for free. Like Microsoft the problem with Microsoft at the minute in the games media, which doesn't help. They look at Microsoft like, hey, they putting their games on everything. We like the fact that we don't have to buy their platform. So let's just continuously talk about how this game is coming to the other platform. Because remember, Boom, how I said 2 weeks ago, it really annoyed me how the conversation shifted away from games, right? People stopped talking about the games themselves. They start talking about platforms, right? People weren't talking about the Starfield update. They were talking about it's coming to PlayStation 5, right? Nobody was talking about the new features, and that really annoyed me. Like, this brand new features coming out, a brand new expansion filled with lots of features. Nobody's talking about it. Well, what I'm saying is you have people in the media that are saying, hey, you don't have to buy this game that Microsoft's making on their platform. Let's just not talk about the game. Let's talk about the fact you can get it on PlayStation 5. Indiana Jones, the one more thing at Gamescom in 2024, it wasn't a brand new game.
Yeah.
It wasn't a brand new game. It wasn't a new game mode for something. It was a PlayStation 5 port of Indiana Jones. Jeff Keighley was standing on stage smiling like the bloody Joker on Christmas Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anything like it. And like that should have been a telltale sign. And back in August 2024, I felt like I was the only person that noticed this because no one was talking about it. Like, I'm watching the Indiana Jones game trailer on YouTube, on the Xbox YouTube channel, and at the very end of the trailer, there's a PlayStation 5 logo at the very bottom of the trailer. And I thought, I've been subscribed to the Xbox YouTube channel since the beginning, and I've never once seen that in a trailer on the Xbox channel. And I thought that's a bit of a weird thing, but I thought maybe it's a one-off. And now they're putting the PlayStation 5 logos in all of their shows.
Yep.
And it's like, cool. First up, it's nice that you're letting people know that, let's say, these third-party games, such as, like, I don't know, I'll mention, Metro, that's going to be announced this week, right? There's probably going to be a PlayStation logo on it because it's a multi-platform game, right? Everyone expects that. And it's nice that, people don't have to go looking online to see what, platforms it's on. But then again, all you have to do is pick up your phone, just Google the thing, So like Microsoft's doing free advertising for a different company, and that other company is willing to pay to keep games off their platform. Like, what?
Yeah.
But I just say in chat, what does that logo take away from me? Like that is literally not. The people
it's bad optics is what it is.
Yeah, the people don't pay attention to me at all. Like the logos, I don't care. I got the game. I said Indiana Jones. It's one of my favorite games of all time now. I love the game. That logo in that trailer meant diddly squat to me. But if you are a fan of, let's say, Xbox, and you want the console base to grow because that way you get more games, right? From an optics standpoint, it made no sense, right? That'd be like, okay, let's imagine the next Marvel movie. I don't know what the next Marvel movie is. I think it's Spider-Man.
That'd be Spider-Man, a brand new day.
So let's say, imagine Spider-Man. At the end of that film, the credits roll, and there's a trailer for Supergirl. Doesn't make any sense, right? You're advertising your competitor, right? Yeah. Right? I don't care, right? I put it like this for the people that like to pick apart everything I say. If Xbox's games go exclusive or multi-platform, do you know what changes for me? Nothing. I still get to play these games. I still get to cover them. The only thing that changes is the little annoying arse-hats in my replies. Apologies for swearing. But like, that's the truth. And, when it comes to the exclusivity thing, it's been a hot topic for just over 2 years now. The joke has always been for the past couple of years that Microsoft tends to step on rakes. And ever since they announced the 4 games thing in 2024, they've continuously stepped on rakes. Hey, these are only 4 games. Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, there'll be more. Okay. Here's, Indiana Jones trailer and release day for Xbox fans. Nice. Here's the PlayStation 5 announcement as the one more thing at the Gamescom show. Okay. Just like, here's some cool Game Pass games. And oh, by the way, Game Pass is going up in price, like, so like they've been doing this like whole back and forth thing for years. And by the way, I'm a fan of Xbox. Like, hell, I don't even have a PlayStation at the minute. I have a PlayStation 3. Right? Sounds like it's about to take off. Sounds like the helicarrier from the Avengers. But like Xbox, they clearly need to change things. And if you ask anyone that has an Xbox right now, are they going to buy a Helix next gen? I'm guessing the answer is going to be yes, because they have a built-in library of hundreds, if not thousands, of games. And you have all the stuff with the ecosystem, you have Microsoft Rewards, all that stuff, right? But how do you get new consumers on board, right? Do you have people that are looking at specific new features for a console, such as quick resume? I'm guessing there'll be people like that. But like, how do you get bulk gamers? How do you get mass amounts of gamers to buy your platform? Really, it's games, right? That's why we buy these consoles. So like, them doing exclusives again when they, and bear in mind, if you go back to 2018 when they start purchasing studios, because all of their exclusive games they had at the time were basically these third-party games made by other teams, right? Crackdown, Recore, Quantum Break, right? And I love Quantum Break. These games were basically made by external studios,
Yeah.
right? So like, they had a problem with not having enough studios, so they bought all these studios, and then in 2019 they bought a couple of more with Exile and Obsidian and Double Fine, and they finally got to a point where they had a bunch of studios making cool new single player projects. Then they bought Bethesda, then they bought Activision, and like, they have this huge what do you call it? They have this huge portfolio of IP and games, which they could do basically anything with, spin-offs, remasters, remakes, anything. They're at a point now where they can release a dozen games a year, but right now they put their games on everything. So they weren't even able to test their, original business plan by having a big portfolio of games exclusively on a console, but they just start putting them on everything else. That was the weird thing for me. If they were going to do multi-platform things, I thought they would have waited a couple of years, but they didn't. They did it immediately when their games are higher quality than ever. Their games are getting better rated than ever, and like, as of now, their game lineup looks pretty great. Forza Horizon looks great. Kiln looks fun. Gears of War A-Day, we're still yet to see it, but it's the coalition. It's probably going to be good. Fable looks fantastic. If you have all those games exclusives and you have these people on the outside that don't play games on PC that go, maybe I should pick up an Xbox for this game or for these games or the upcoming games. But as of now, why do you buy an Xbox? Because I think there's a lot of different reasons to buy an Xbox. It's not just like it's just exclusives thing. But like, if you look at the conversations online, if you look at people, like, you have people on IGN that will say there's no reason to get an Xbox. People that work at the biggest game, media outlet on the planet will say there's no reason to get an Xbox. Shouldn't they be the people that tell people what are the reasons? But they don't.
No.
So like, how do you give people a reason to buy a console? It's games, right? And look, I would love it if we could play every game and everything. And look, the best time to be a gamer when it came to content was the 7th generation, right? By the end of that generation, right, Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii had like basically a million, like 100 million consoles sold or more, right? They had a massive library of first-party games. No, the conversation was, which console should go away? Should Microsoft or Sony leave the console business? No one was talking about that. All three companies were thriving. But now we're at a point where Microsoft, they have to come out of the woodwork every 4 weeks to say, by the way, we are making a next-gen console because someone online spread a rumor that we're not doing hardware anymore. And that all stems from the fact that we aren't doing exclusives anymore because they're a third-party publisher. Like, come on, I love when people say that's my opinion in the chat. It's like, of course it's my opinion. I'm saying it. like, doy. But look, that's just my take. I think that Xbox has the best hardware at the minute. They have the best features, and honestly, the best game lineup. But I have an Xbox, right? I'm gonna play the games regardless. But how do they get other people to pick up the hardware? That's the question. And
it's an excellent question.
I put it like this, right? When Wolverine comes out in August, or is it September? I think it's September.
September.
So Sony's Wolverine game comes out in September. I don't see people online, like big media people, tagging Sony saying, guys, let everyone play this game. Port it to port it to Xbox, port it to Switch, port it to PC. Let everyone play this game. Let's be the good guys. I don't say this, right? Because we all understand that there's the competition there, right? And look, you're going to see a massive rollout for Sony's going to do a big marketing campaign for Wolverine. There's going to be adverts on the sides of buses, bus stops, all this thing. There's going to be trailers everywhere, right? They're going to do a marketing campaign and they're going to use that game to sell hardware. That's always been the business model, And now we have to sit on the side, and it's like we have to say that Microsoft shouldn't want to sell hardware because they have Game Pass. Like that's just a weird thing. Like you don't have to have a degree in business to understand that they need to sell hardware, right? Because remember, boom, before this conversation about exclusivity was even a thing, like this week, remember a couple of months ago, where people were worried that third-party companies were going to stop making games on Xbox, right? People were so quick to forget about that. And it's like, look, I don't think Xbox is going away. Clearly not, right? But I'm saying that if the past plan wasn't working, which was the multi-platform strategy and other things they did, such as raising the price of Game Pass and whatnot, shouldn't they have to change things? Shouldn't they want to change things? Shouldn't us as gamers that prefer Xbox want things to change so they can expand the audience? Like, I have people that live in different countries all the way around Europe that they tell me they're an Xbox fan, right? But there's no reach there. They can't get physical copies of games there. It's hard to get, physical anything there. They can't get controllers, consoles, or anything. Like, there's not even like support for the countries they live in Europe, right? And like, if Xbox grows, it grows in more territories.
Yep.
So it's like everyone wins in the end. And like I want to see the Xbox user base grow and grow and grow, and that way we all benefit. And look, I think like Sony's going to have a big strategy. Like, people like to bring up GTA, by the way, like it's some like notch on their bedpost. Like it's a third party game. It's going to be on everything. It's going to be the biggest game of all time. But like it's going to be on everything, right? Xbox, they have the cheapest console at the minute, right? With the Series S. They might not be able to directly say that, hey, you can play, GTA 6 on this thing right now. But if they can market their, cheap console with a bunch of exclusive games, and oh, by the way, this thing happens to play Grand Theft Auto, that's going to get people interested in a time when hardware, let's be honest, hardware is a bit pricey. RAM costs like a blood diamond and 2 goats, so like it's getting ridiculous online. I will say this though, like, and I've seen a few people, not just in chat, mention this. Like, I think Phil Spencer saved Xbox, right?
He absolutely did. That's a fact.
He did, right? Xbox was in the worst position ever after Don Matrick. And we've all done that whole song and dance with Don Matrick. We don't need to go over it again. But like Don Matrick did, he messed up a little bit. And Phil Spencer reined it in. Took the Kinect out of the box, got to work on exclusive games at the time, but also backwards compatibility. The big thing I talk about all the time is backwards compatibility is one of Xbox's best features, right? The fact that you can play 4 generations of games on your console is ridiculous. I love that, right? I use backwards compatibility every day, right? And I will for the years to come, right? Phil Spencer's done a lot for Xbox. And like Game Pass is, let's be honest, industry changer, right? And like, this is not me saying, oh, Phil Spencer is terrible. Like I'm a Phil Spencer fan. He did a lot for Xbox, but like clearly things weren't working that well. And like, I'm not a fly on the wall in the Xbox offices, but like, I'm guessing if you're Microsoft, you want hardware to move, right? But I mean, hey, that's just me. Maybe I'm just sound annoyed because I'm ill at the minute, but like, it is what it is.
No, I mean, you bring up a tremendous amount of really great points. First of all, Umbra, welcome to the program, brother. We're going to bring you in, but before we do, I do want to bring up the tweet that we're talking about that has everybody up in arms. And some people are excited, some people are a little about it, but we're going to get into it in a second. But I do want to just harken back to something that Jamie said. You know, a couple of years ago, NCAA football came back, right? I believe it was NCAA 25. That was one of the first EA games that was next gen only, right? I believe it was like maybe 2 years ago. And if you remember, we covered that exclusively here, where the sales of the Xbox Series S specifically were through the roof because people were buying this console that was the cheapest of the between the Series X being at the time, I believe, was 500, and what the PlayStation 5 was. And I'm not sure if the Pro was out. It might have been. But it was the cheaper console, so people traded in their PlayStation 4s, their PlayStation 4 Pros, and some obviously traded in their Xbox One X and S consoles to upgrade. You saw people posting online all the time about it. They got it. So my whole long-winded point here is a specific game made people upgrade because there were a couple of years that you did not have a new NCAA. And this was the first one in years. So people got excited. Well, that logic, Umbra and Jamie and chat, now moves over to Grand Theft Auto 6, which has been in development for over a decade. Right? Now, you're going to get people to argue, say it's 13 years versus 10. Listen, they've been working on this game for over 10 years. And it's had a tremendous amount of delays. It's had a lot of movement in management. There's still problems at the studio. They were just hacked. There's some stuff going on with them. But we do know that it's supposedly still on track for the 19th of November. Well, I said this the other day, and I want to reiterate it for the chat once again. Microsoft finds themselves in a very unique position. And it's something that Jamie Moran said. They have the best lineup of first-party games that you could find on any platform releasing this year. They also have the cheapest next-generation console in the Xbox Series S. And if they're smart and they play into this, and Asha's change in leadership, we're already starting to see the big moves that are happening. Well, we were all hoping that marketing and messaging also follow suit. And if you want to bring excitement back to your platform that has been diminishing by the boatload year after year after year, well, you have a bunch of really great games. They have that. You potentially, and we're going to get into this in the second half of the show, potentially lower Xbox Game Pass, which would be a really big win and could be an announcement that is saved for the June showcase, which is in a couple of months, right? But you have to tap in to the fact that Grand Theft Auto 6 is next gen only. And the only way you're going to play this game is on an Xbox Series X or S, which is the cheapest entry point, or a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 Pro. Guess what PlayStation just did? They raised the prices on all of their hardware, man. So you have to take advantage of it. You have a crazy good lineup. If they go and they do marketing like they did during the Xbox 360 days, Umbra, they could bring people back to the brand in anticipation of getting Grand Theft Auto at the end of the year. And how do you get them in the door now? Well, you get them in the door because you have Forza Horizon 6 releasing next month. You have the leaked release date for Halo Campaign Evolved for the 28th of July. You also have Gears of War E-Day getting its own direct in June, right? We already saw Fable at the beginning of the year. People are hyped for it. You can use your own IP to get people in the door to buy the hardware because they're going to upgrade anyway for Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm just saying it's my plan. I don't have a business degree, but I think it would work. Umbra, how the heck are you, sir? Welcome back.
Hey, good morning, Boom. Good morning, Jamie. Good morning, chat, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Yeah, sorry for being a bit behind.
No, that's quite all right. Listen, before I hand you the mic, what I want to do is kind of just get you up to speed, is bring up a Charlie Intel post. And this is concerning, I should say, Jez Corden of Windows Central, who did a lot of talking on the Xbox 2 podcast. And this was a bit of a big part of that. Now, Charlie Intel goes on to report Xbox is reportedly considering a return to exclusives. Now, according to Jez Corden, who said this on the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor, quote, there are very, very big discussions regarding exclusivity internally at Xbox and Umbra. That is going on as we speak. Now, this leads into what Asha said when she was pressed about exclusives a couple of months ago. The plan is the plan until it's not the plan. And I think that exclusivity, wasn't the plan. But if you want to bring people back to your box in anticipation of one of the biggest games releasing in any year that we've had in the last 10 years, it's Grand Theft Auto 6. And people are going to upgrade. Why shouldn't they upgrade to Xbox, especially if Xbox has the cheapest next generation console? And this is on the heels of PlayStation raising their prices. I say go for the juggler, take advantage of this opportunity. But what do you say, man?
Yeah, so would this be, you guys, the second topic of the day?
No, this is actually the first.
Okay. I thought the first was something else. But so my thinking is, it all sounds good at first. I don't know how well they're going to stick to this thought. I feel like, and I hear this, it's like, yeah, that sounds so great. Then my skepticism kicks in, like, yeah, it sounds too good to be true at times, right? When they talk about exclusivity, now I believe that is a reality where they could go back to. That much makes sense. We've talked about that. I feel like there are going to be some games that are going to be on all platforms. I think we can all agree to that. We all
that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
There should be some that I absolutely should stay just to Xbox and maybe PC or whatever if they want to do that. Halo, we talked about. I mentioned this, I think, the last time actually I was here, which is tentpole games like a Halo, like a Gears, like a Forza. Oh, not even Forza. I would, because Forza can work when it's multiplayer because it's got a multiplayer component. But I think titles like a Halo, like a Gears, I would even say Fable. It's not a tentpole necessarily right now, but it can be built into what it should have been. Those right there should probably remain exclusive. Those are like high level AAA games, right? I could make the argument for Forza as well, but I think Forza would benefit even more by being everywhere, especially for the fan base. Although you could make that same argument for Gears multiplayer and Halo, and this is why I said before, if anything, what I would do is keep the single player portion of Halo and Gears exclusive to Xbox. The multiplayer portion I would allow on other platforms, be it, PlayStation, what if you will, even Switch if they can manage it. Switch 2, should I say, right? If they can manage to get those to work on there, multiplayer on that only, single player and the multiplayer and everything, all the bells and whistles only on Xbox. And if they want to go so far, Steam and the PC, if they want to go
the PC and Steam situation, I don't think needs to change. Yeah. And I literally said something, and I want to just throw this out there so maybe you can take this and run with it. I said Xbox is in a really good position to have their cake and eat it too. And what I meant by that, Umbra, was they could use the power of their first party to their advantage via exclusivity. Now, timed exclusivity, a lot of people think is something that they can do. And when I say timed, I don't necessarily mean that you have to give the Ryan McCaffreys of the world a specific release date on a game staying on Xbox versus going to his PlayStation 5 Pro that he went out of his way to buy and tell the world about. Good for you, man. He bought it because he wants to play the best version of Grand Theft Auto 6, and he believes that's going to be on the Pro. Okay, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But here's the thing. They can take the power of their first-party IP and make the Xbox hardware the place where you're going to play this game. And when someone asks, you pull a page out of Sony's book and say, we're not talking about PlayStation right now. What we are talking about is Xbox and Xbox for PC. That is where you're going to play these games if you choose to do so. And when we're ready to talk about other platforms, we will then discuss that. You don't have to.
I would
play
go
nice
a step
with
further. I'll go a step further. If I'm actually talking with you as someone in Microsoft, I'm going to let you know ahead of time. Don't ask me anything about that. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't ask. No questions. Anyway, those who know what I got that from. Yeah, I would just tell them flat out. I mean, this is the thing we had the discussion about last time where I said, stop the kumbaya nice talk. Dictate to them in a way. You have the power. They need to talk with you. They want to get you to push their headlines, to push their articles, to write whatever they're going to write about. I will tell them flat out, I'm not discussing that, so don't ask me that. If you want to ask me anything about an Xbox platform, you want to ask me maybe what concerns, PC, I will answer those. Anything with PlayStation, we don't have to have this interview or this discussion, because whenever we're gonna bring anything or port anything to PlayStation, we will announce that. Until then, I don't want to be hounded. We don't want to be hounded as a team by constant barrages of, is it going to PlayStation, that has hampered us in the past, and we're moving past that. That's what I would say. But I don't think they would be as aggressive as I am in tone personally. But that's what I would do. As far as the infinite, I'm talking about myself. As far as the exclusivity, goes, yeah, 100%. I agree. Timed exclusivity can work. We talked about that too. Notice some games don't even go over like in a year. Some games go over in like 2 years. I mean, look at Starfield, right? So I would there's no hard line deadline of when any game would ever go over. That would be one of the things I would express. There is no 6 month to a year deadline or timeline. It would be whenever we get to it. It is not to diminish our foothold or our blueprint, not blueprint, our
fingerprint.
Our fingerprint. Thank you.
Yeah.
On PlayStation for gamers over there who do like our IP, but it's to say that we are going to be focused primarily on our platform first and foremost, and everything else is secondary. That's how I would word it, so people would understand it. Not only would the fan base understand, yes, we are not third place and third rate citizens, but if you want to get the best of whatever, you will expect to get it here first, and maybe exclusively. So I think time can work for sure. And depending on what the title is, I would say fully. Again, my solution would be, if it was Halo, if it's Gears, Fable wouldn't even go over there. But if it's Halo and Gears, multiplayer portions only on PlayStation, single player and multiplayer, the whole full suite on Xbox and PC only. That's how I would handle it. But I don't know, man. Maybe that's just me. And I know that, I guess the kind of bullet they'd have to swallow in this case, if you will, or the tough pill they'd have to swallow, would be that they may not have to charge for the multiplayer portions, right? They may have to be free to play, or they can charge a small fee, like maybe $10, $15 for it, and and bank on the microtransactions from there. That's possible. if they want to make it something that they can still get some revenue from. I would maybe just keep it cheap to $10 to $15, if not free to play. They were going that route with Halo anyway, with the free to play portion. And keep everything else, exclusive to Xbox and to PC. That's how I would do it. Did you all want to? Did you, Boom, were you speaking on the? Well, I'll let you get to it yourself. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, we're gonna segue into the Xbox Game Pass story from The Verge. What I'm gonna wind up doing, because again, I wanted to get out of here in 90 minutes because I got a ton of stuff to do, and I don't want to hold anybody else up. So we're gonna be here for about 90 minutes. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the Metro 2039 story to tomorrow's primetime gaming, because the show for that is happening on Thursday, which we are going to be covering. I'm trying to get a few people to work with me. I'm going to see if Korkenstein can join, and we're going to go live at 12:30. And then, of course, we're going to cover. It's again, there's a lot to get into, and I don't want to kind of spoil it. So tomorrow evening's primetime gaming is where we're going to cover the Metro 2039 story that I originally wanted to, but this exclusivity conversation, it got deep, man, and I'm glad that it did, because Umbra, I like what you put down. And look, I'll say this: there is only one way to prioritize your hardware that you want people to buy this year, and even more important, buy for the next generation, which is going to start for Xbox next year and not PlayStation. As a matter of fact, we all think, based on what Sony has said in the past, that they might not have their next console, meaning the PS6, which is rumored to have an S version OPS, by the way, until 2029, giving Xbox a 2-year head start, right? You want people to buy this hardware. Now, am I suggesting that they're going to go and market to the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro owners to get them over to Xbox? Not necessarily. I think they want some of those customers, sure, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. What they're going to be marketing to, or at least being pitching to, is the PC audience that are playing on 1080p rigs, right? That haven't upgraded their hardware in years. That's who they're going to try and get to buy Helix next year, on top of Xbox players that are in this generation currently. But again, with all of that said, you still have an incredible first-party lineup. You have a game coming out that's going to be the biggest in not only the franchise history, but entertainment as a whole, releasing at the end of the year. And you currently have the cheapest entry price for next generation in the Series S. And if they're smart and they lower that price a little bit, and they go back to the way that they marketed during the 360 era, where they put a specific game character for a specific game on the box and put those boxes on shelves, they would sell. When it's time to sell Gears of War E-Day, put Marcus on the box. When you're trying to sell a potential Call of Duty, marketed, game box, throw it on the box. When you're trying to sell the next Halo or Fable, do the groundwork. Spend some freaking marketing dollars on getting people to maybe think about buying your hardware.
100%.
This is not rocket scientists. This is not rocket science. I'm sorry, it's not.
I'm going to have to agree. I think when we really look at what the delta is for getting people to care, one way or another, regardless of what we feel, this utopian, games everywhere, thing because I see some people are kind of like, well, why are we talking about hardware? I get it. I trust me, being on PC mainly now, I get it, but you cannot push this whole games everywhere story and expect your hardware to sell. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. They're going to go to PlayStation. They're going to go to PC. Right? You're going to have something that brings them strictly to your hardware. It's just a matter of fact. It's not like, we want to do this because of fanboy reasons. No, you want to do it because you want the lifeblood of your exclusives are the lifeblood of your platform, and you got to have something that pulls people to it. It won't just be services, right? Services is a part of it, but you have to have something that entices people to get your hardware. And if these consoles are going to be in the upwards of thousands, 1,000 or so next gen, it's not going to work to be like, oh, pay 1,200 or whatever, 5,000, excuse me, 1,500 rather, for this next Xbox. But all the games, you can also get these games over there on an $800 PS6. You still get us though. Like, no, people are not going to do that because they're going to weigh it out and say rationally they can get the PlayStation games and the Xbox games on a cheaper device, right? And we already know that the next Xbox is going to be more powerful. More power means more price. So, and they may come even. They may be about the same price, even though we know that the allegedly the Xbox specs are showing that they're higher, right? So we'll see how that shakes out. But you have to pull people towards your platform, and the only way to do that reasonable way to do it, is through exclusivity, services, and the entire ecosystem itself. Xbox has a lot of it going forward already. Ecosystem is supreme. They still have to, iron out a few little things, tangibles for the, like, I guess the DVR situation that still has unfortunately been poor. They got the services, Game Pass. There's no better service in gaming. Now, the problem is the pricing, but we'll be getting into that in a minute.
Yeah, we absolutely are. But can I just add one additional one there? And Jamie made mention of this. They're the only platform that allows you to play the 4 generations of Xbox there.
True. That's true. And so Tonino, I hear you, my brother, my Hawaiian, my Polynesian brother. He says, I disagree. I'm a statistic. And he says, I played on PS4 last gen and I bought a Series X one day because of Game Pass and controller. Yeah, it wasn't a game that was offering it, but that's my point. It's services is also still what pulled you. So it's still a matter of those things, right? It's still services.
The combination.
Right. It's a combination of it, but you keep in mind that you're not everybody, right? I would argue. I'm not even going to say imagine. I would argue more people would be enticed by having something that you can only get on that platform. Services is not going to do it alone, not for everybody, especially if the services are pricey. You're going to have something that says, I can only get this here. You're going to have to force people into that. That's just the only way it really, really works. I've heard tales from other people who talked about it. I was listening to Mag about a week or two ago. Shout out to Mag. And he was on late at night one night, and I just jumped in. I'm like, let me listen to my brother here and see what he's talking about. And he talked about how he wasn't even an Xbox guy. He was on PlayStation and whatever, and 2, whatever it was. And he was moving on to the next gen, and he saw Dead. What's the name of that zombie game from Capcom? Dead Rising.
Yes.
He saw Dead Rising for 360, and he's like, "What is this?" And he said he's a big zombie fan, etc. And he said the next day he went out and bought the 360 immediately with that game, and he's been with Xbox ever since.
Yes.
Most people are going to be enticed by something you can only get on that one specific thing. That's why PlayStation has been chiefly successful on top of great games they put out. I mean, you can't just put out anything, obviously. They have to be great games, right? Look at Nintendo. Nintendo's a perfectly prime example. Yes. Where they sell way more than anybody else on their copies of their games nowadays. And you get that by continuously building on, you can only get that here, right? Now there's other tangibles that go into it, but that's one of the major components right there. Everything else adds to that, but you cannot continuously try to say, hey, we got this super expensive device over here, but you don't necessarily need to do that. You can go over here and get that over there if you want. I mean, for them, if the bottom line is just to sell some software, then maybe I don't think that that end is going to justify that, or that mean is going to justify the ends for them, because I don't think it's going to add up overall. Excuse me. I don't know if that's going to add up overall in the long run. Will that outlast the thought of their return on investment where the higher ups say, this is not working for us. You're not selling enough, even by putting a multi-platform. And you know, nobody is staying here static to us and continuously pulling in microtransactions, things of that nature. I don't know, but I think we are all in agreement, and I'm sorry for the long-winded spiel, but I feel we're all in agreement. If you want to bring people to you, you're going to have something exclusive that brings them to you.
That's a fact. You know, real quick, let me just read something from the chat here. Phase 114X says the games make you buy the console. The services keep you there. You need exclusives. And that's a fact. That's a really great point, FaZe. Thanks so much for dropping that in the chat. Well, look, we spent an hour on this topic, and I'm not sorry that we did. I think exclusivity has to come back in some way. I do believe that Xbox is in the best position of the three to be able to get people or entice people to potentially buy the box. That's because they have the best first-party games that they've ever had at any one time in their history, folks. Again, I've challenged the chat once again. You give me a specific year where you had Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable, Call of Duty, Minecraft Legends 2 or Dungeons 2, and a Kilm. And that's just what we know this year. And that is on top of the ridiculous amount of games like, I don't know, Replaced that released today into Xbox Game Pass. Like, it's been such a banger year, and it's going to continue. That if there was any one year to bang your drum on why you should be playing here, it's 2026, and they need to take advantage of that. And I gotta say, new leadership seems to didn't just hit the ground running. Asha Sharma hit the ground sprinting. Now, granted, sure, some of the things have been in the works for a while and were shelved due to one reason or another. But needless to say, there's been an update to achievements. There's been updates to the Xbox Series X and S consoles that were requested as far back as when Larry Herb was still with the freaking company. There's been a lot of big moves. And the story that we're going to segue into after I get to Super Chats is a story from The Verge. We'll get to that in a second, but let me just catch up on Super Chats, gentlemen, and we, of course, will get into that story from Tom Warren. Of course, earlier in the show, JFX88 has gifted 5 double-barreled gaming memberships, and if you did get one, I do ask that you say thank you for that, because that's a lot of gifted subs, and he did not have to do that. So thank you, JFX, once again for the generosity. We have Julia in the chat, who's been a channel member for 55 months. So thank you so much for the insane generosity and the crazy support. That is a long time, and Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate it. JFX88 drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. It says, pull back Gears, Halo, Fable, and Elder Scrolls 6 for multiplat. Forza can stay. Look, I think you're onto something. See, Forza staying or releasing a year after, or at some point in 2027, I think it's financially a good thing because of the location. Like I said, it's in Japan. PlayStation 5, even though it doesn't sell as well as the Switch or Switch 2, sells a lot better than the Xbox in Japan, and it's their home turf. So you're going to get a lot of sales of that game. Do I think that that's a type of game that is so good, that is so easy on the eyes, that is coming off of one of the best in the series in Forza Horizon 5? You hold that sumbitch for a year or more. I'm sorry. Like, at least a year, because again, it's a game. The game's power will get people into the platform. And here's the other thing. I'm going to be a little bit of a dick for a second here. Where are all of these PlayStation cats who said that they didn't need an Xbox because they had PC? Where did they all go?
Life.
Because they all had rigs, Jamie.
He's so light. Well, can I make a quick point?
Please go ahead, man.
This won't be as long-winded as my last thing. Another reason why Microsoft doing exclusives would actually really benefit them. Getting console sales out there. It's like you have to realize every generation there's one console in particular that really appeals to the casual market. And some people will say, "Oh, he's calling PlayStation guys." No. Every generation there's a console that pops off because it's really good with casuals. The 360 was bought up by a lot of people that only played FIFA or only played Call of Duty, right? We all know that. And last generation and this generation, it's the same with like people will buy a PlayStation and only play Fortnite because they like Fortnite, right? Nothing wrong with that. Same with FIFA, Madden. Like I've seen some people's games collection where their only games is NBA 2K, NBA 2K, NBA 2K, Call of Duty, NBA 2K, and that's completely fine. Like that, those people actually make up like a bulk of the gaming audience. So like, that's completely fine. So like if you have the casuals that will look at the game lineup and they will dabble in, a different title now and then, and they think, well, look at this. I could buy this PlayStation that has my NBA 2K and my Fortnite, but it also has these games that also go to Xbox. So if you have it at that point where you have Xbox that they have this like cool like category or cool catalog of, first party exclusives like your Fables, your Gears of War, ED and stuff, that would be captivating for a lot of people. And I think that would actually work. And, back to the point of, Forza Horizon, I do think Forza Horizon next year would make sense. In fact, them announcing it to be multi-platform now, I didn't really get it because, Forza isn't just a singular game where they launch it and that's it. It's a game that has microtransactions, expansions, right? Forza has more than 1 year of shelf life, right? So, like, when they put Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation last year, I thought, okay, they probably want to get a couple of years of, microtransactions and expansion sales from them, right? So, like, to me, I thought it would be maybe even 2028 because, for people that in the chat know, Forza Horizon has a life cycle and they get delisted after a couple of years when the new game comes out. So that's just the way I saw it. So I do think, 6 will go there eventually, maybe next year. It might even be the year after, depending on, if they're good with resources and whatnot. But I do think it will go there. And, it's Japan. It's a much wanted setting. Like, since the original Forza Horizon, people like myself have been wanting them to go to Japan. And I think this is probably going to be one of the biggest Forza Horizon games, if not the biggest Forza Horizon game yet. So like that makes sense, things like, Kiln, Minecraft dungeons, and obviously things like, Call of Duty and stuff, right? That stuff being multi-platform, I 100% get that, but like when it comes to your Fables, your Gears of War, EDs, stuff like that, like the tentpole games, right? It doesn't really make much sense. It doesn't now. But yeah, that's me.
No, I mean, listen, great stuff. Again, this is a bit of a side tangent with super chats, but I love this conversation because it's nothing is scripted. It's just we're shooting from the hip here. We also have a very generous. Let's see. Scott Gamer Dude drops a very generous $5 super chat. Great to see you here, Scott, and thank you for the generosity. He says, "Hello, Boom Elusive in chat room. Do you think they're going them going multi-platform pressure possibly came from Activision? Not directly from Activision, but I think Activision's purchase. I think that when you borrow $80 billion, they want ROI, which is return on investment. And look, I'll say this. Umber said it earlier. You only make change when what is there isn't working. And what was there worked for a long time, and now it wasn't. So now they have to figure out, how do they right this ship? How do they figure it out? Because they made heavy investments in AI, and I think that has a lot to do with some of the pressure, and that has blown up in Microsoft's face. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, they lost a quarter of the value of Microsoft over this. A quarter of potentially a $4 trillion company. Do the math, folks. It's ridiculous. So they understand that, you know, they have to figure out how to make Xbox makes a lot of money for them. I will say with this about Phil Spencer, he made it so that they can never get rid of Xbox because it is literally making so much money for them that they can't live without it. So they're gonna have to figure it out and bring people back. But House Flan, who's been a channel member for 32 months, goes on to say Elder Scrolls and Fallout need to be the tent poles and should be exclusive to console and PC. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Those are multiplats, but if you really wanted to make a statement, man, like if you really wanted to drive the exclusivity point home, and you came out and said that where you could play the Elder Scrolls 6 is on an Xbox Series, I was gonna say Fusion, Xbox Helix, or PC, and they didn't mention PlayStation, you would turn some freaking heads on that. Is that a game that you hold back or you put multi-platform? Look, again, I don't think that there's a half in, half out for this. I think the answer is timed exclusivity. And I think that you playing coy and talk, and I think I missed it, Umbra. I believe you might have said it in your segment where when they go to these interviews, like, all right, so Asha's going to sit down with IGN and she's going to have a team with her. And, of course, their team is going to require, a questions list from Ryan McCaffrey on his podcast. And they're going to get those questions because I've interviewed people from Microsoft. I mean, I had Larry Herb on the show in 2019, and I had to send my questions to comms. Hey, this is what I'm going to ask. I'm not going to deviate from it. Well, what needs to be a standard for Xbox moving forward is when we're here to talk about an Xbox game, you are not allowed to ask the interviewee about PlayStation. And if you do, we'll never be back. You'll never get an interview.
Boom, it'll be like me being with my girl or something and be like, yeah, so your girl Tiffany, she was looking kind of good today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gonna look at me like, what you say? Like,
exactly.
Imagine that. Like, how would that work? So if I'm talking to you again, this is why, like, as much as I love Phil, all love to the brother, I think he's a good dude. I think he's a genuine guy. I think he's a real gamer.
He's a real human, a real genuine human
dude.
being.
I can tell he is, right? And everything I've heard about the people who have met him has all been positive. I believe that. The problem, however, is that with Phil's personality and love for gaming, it does not translate in terms of business necessarily.
Yeah.
And they would have to be, because Sony is cutthroat.
Yes, now, they are.
Sony puts on a smile, but Sony doesn't play. They don't play that. You don't get to pull that with Sony and get away with it. If I'm Microsoft, I'm changing that. Now, I know why they had to do it in the past, because they were Microsoft and they were hated, right? They still are, but they were hated more then. So, it always had a negative connotation with Microsoft behind it. People were, they're mega corporation evil, blah, blah, blah. And they might be right in some ways, but I'm saying that already carried a negative weight to it. So they had to be like, oh, Steve, we're smiles. We're good people here. Yeah, see? Kumbaya, right? We're for you. They had to do that. Well, no more. If I'm there and in charge, I'm not going to be mean to you, but I'm going to be very direct. And I'm going to be very, as they would say, curt. Hey, don't bring up PlayStation to us. Or if I want to go that route, you can mention it once, and I'm going to tell you an answer once, and then we'll leave that alone from there on. So if they say, hey, well, like Ryan McCraft, well, some people are going to ask, well, what about PlayStation, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing his voice. I don't know if that's how he sounds like accurate.
He does, but please continue.
I know he's kind of nasally, but, shout out to Ryan. But so I would say, we're focused first and foremost on Xbox. Our players come first.
Yeah.
Anything else concerning any other platform, we'll announce at the time if we choose to do something for those other platforms. But right now, we're specifically here for our gamers, Xbox.
As it should be. That's it.
And people, anybody who hears that are going to be like, they're going to be like, oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
You're not going to be thinking, oh, well, they're still going to do that. They might, but you heard the messaging, and it was much more direct. It was much more stern. It was letting you know, hey, don't stop bringing up this other chick with me. You're here with me tonight, right? So they're going to have to be more direct when it comes to things like that in that discussion, and dead all that talk of place. What about place? What about think about the children? And what Michael Jordan said, F them children. No, yeah,
F them kids.
So just speak specifically about your platform. I know that some people might think, well, that's not the nice way to do it. And how about you just try it once and see how the fan base reacts? See how everybody reacts to knowing you're not going to be able to get this over there, and your tone is markedly stronger on supporting your platform, and see how that pays off in the long run. Now, it's not going to be something that happens quickly, because some people are not going to believe it. As the old saying goes, some people don't believe fat meat is greasy. You're going to have to convince them and get them to understand through actions, by you continuously doing this thing, that this is what you stand for. This is what you mean. You're not changing back to this, and just because you all are desperate for this to go to your PlayStation, or you want it your way specifically. No, stick to that. It's the same. Again, we talk about exclusivity. If they want that to work for them long term, if they want that to bring people to your platform, not only do you have to give quality, you have to have decent pricing. We know that, right? But you can buy a bit on some pricing if you grow your brand enough where people are going to sacrifice for it. But you're going to have quality, and you're going to have some type of exclusivity. Because if I can get your quality over on PlayStation, I don't need to go to Xbox.
Why am I going to buy your box?
It's just a simple truth.
Yeah.
No matter how much we want this utopian, kumbaya thing, I'm just being as real as I can be. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this as somebody who said, hey, I can get everything on PC. I already know, you know what I mean? I already know where I'm at with that. So you got a real capable Xbox going for it. You know what I mean? You got great exclusives that I can only get there. Why wouldn't I go to you? And it's something they're going to have to continue with. Again, I don't know how much leeway they're going to get from the higher ups, from the Amy Hoods and such, and the Satyas and whoever the shareholders. But if they want this to work and go out, it's a long-term kind of fight. It's not something you're just going to quickly, just one gen and everything should be okay. If not, too bad. If that's their mindset, they may as well just stick to what they're doing.
Yeah, and that didn't work, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, great stuff all around. Scott Gamer Dude says this to Infinite Umbra. To Infinite Umbra's point, I bought a PlayStation 5 for Wolverine, and I've been using the PlayStation 5 for 4 months now. Listen, Wolverine is one of my personal most anticipated games of the year. I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. I freaking love Insomniac. I love Logan as a character. I like the stories that they tell. But, I mean, again, it's going to get me to turn on my PlayStation 5. We also have here Son of Vision 2 dropping a very generous $10 super chat. And Son of Vision goes on to say, Xbox has everything going for it. Content, services, and devices. Now they just need the iron will. Multiplayer only goes over to PlayStation. Everything else is locked to Xbox, PC, cloud, mobile, the end. And that's a lot of places where you can play, so I don't see what the beef is. Great point all around. And Scott Gamer Dude has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. Thank you so much, Scott, for the crazy generosity today. But listen, chat, Jamie Moran, Infinite Umbra, we got to get into this story, and it's a big one. Now, we keep talking about price, and I don't think any one year really drives the point home on how expensive things are in 2026. And I'm not going to, bring up the cream cheese or the eggs, because everything has gone down in price, at least some of the stuff that I like, but everything is expensive right now. And gaming, as we know, is entertainment. And one of the first things that someone will have to cut is entertainment in order for them to put food on the table, keep the lights on, pay the mortgage, the important things of being a grown-up. Well, I have a story here that was written by Tom Warren of The Verge. And the header goes on to say this: Xbox Game Pass, quote, has become too expensive, says Microsoft's new gaming chief in leaked memo. Now, I'm going to say this. I said it in the opening, and I'll say it again. When they say leaked memo, I do not believe that this was just, I don't know, a picture taken and leaked. This is a controlled leak. And that's what I'm settling on. Could I be wrong? Sure. But I believe it's a controlled leak. And I believe that because one of the biggest driving points, at least in gaming right now, and has been since, obviously over the weekend, you keep hearing that Call of Duty is being taken out of potentially Xbox Game Pass because the numbers are not numbering, right? Apparently, there was a total of $300 million loss during the Black Ops 6 release, which I am having a super hard time understanding that, considering that, number one, it's the best selling in the entire franchise history. It made $1 billion in 10 days, and it was the best selling not only for December, but for the entire year that it released. Now, I know that in some conversations and some information that I was able to provide in different links, that they did kind of rope Black Ops 6 and its lackluster sales into this conversation. And there were a couple of reasons why Black Ops 7 didn't sell as well as 6. And, well, quality is one of them. I'm telling you because I play it every day, and it was not as good as 6. You also had the return of Battlefield 6, and a lot of people were hyped to get back to a more realistic, like, military shooter. Now, it's not even charting anymore because no one's playing it, and people are back to playing Call of Duty. But the truth of the matter is 7 was not as good as 6. But let me read some of this article from Tom Warren, who, of course, is a senior correspondent and author of Notepad over at The Verge. And Tom goes on to say this: Microsoft's new chief, Asha Sharma, has signaled that Xbox Game Pass and its pricing is about to change. In an internal memo to Xbox employees obtained by The Verge, Sharma admits that, quote, Game Pass has become too expensive for players and that Microsoft needs to, quote, a better value equation. Now, the article goes on to say Game Pass is central to gaming value on Xbox. And I believe this is a part of that memo. And this is coming directly from Sharma. And I'll reread that. Quote, Game Pass is central to gaming value on Xbox. It's also clear that the current model isn't the final one, says Sharma. Short term, Game Pass has become too expensive for players, so we need a better value equation. Long term, we will evolve Game Pass into a more flexible system, which will take time to test and learn around. This was the memo, folks. Well, the article goes on to say, Umbra, Chat, and Jamie Moran, Microsoft hiked up the price of the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to $30 per month last year, a massive 50% hike. The company tried to justify the price hike with a varied of upgrades across all of its Xbox Game Pass tiers, but the cost increase has certainly taken its toll on Game Pass. Now, Tom goes on to say, I understand that part of the cost increase for Game Pass was down to Microsoft's decision to add Call of Duty to the subscription service. I reported nearly 2 years ago that Xbox had been debating whether to put new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass, with concerns for some at the company at the time that the revenue generated from typical Call of Duty sales would be undermined by Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft went on to add Call of Duty to Game Pass in summer of 2024. So I'm going to stop there, and I will add all of these visual quotes to the videos that I'm going to wind up making. But I'm going to go first to Jamie Moran. Jamie, you and I and Umbra and many people in this chat have had this conversation multiple times about Xbox Game Pass potentially being too expensive, pricing people out at $30. Now, I have publicly admitted, and maybe I'm a part of the problem. I have not paid full boat for Xbox Game Pass in years. And it's not because I'm cheating the system. I go to places like Aniba, who we are partnered with, which you can find right now today, Xbox Game Pass, a 3-month card for the United States. I believe the last time I checked was $53. That's not bad considering that 3 months of Xbox Game Pass at the standard price point of $29.99 is $90. So you're getting it for nearly 40% off. And if you're interested, you can find the links in the show notes and go click it and buy your Xbox Game Pass for cheap. But when you say Game Pass was raised by 50%, that is an eyebrow-raising moment. And that's exactly what happened. Now, when you say 50%, people are thinking the worst. Well, a $10 increase, I think, is worthy of thinking of the worst. It was $20 for years, and it was $15, and it went to $20 when they were going to add Call of Duty. And apparently, the $5 that it went up wasn't enough. And then they raised it on another $10. At the time, it went from $20 to where it is right now, and that's $30. And obviously, they added some things to it, like, I don't know, Fortnite Club. Well, I haven't used it since, and I'm never going to use it. So for me, it's irrelevant. Ubisoft Classics, well, I already pay for Ubisoft Plus. So again, another additive that means nothing to me. I don't take advantage of it because I already pay for Ubisoft Plus, which, by the way, is $20 a month. And what's interesting with that is every Ubisoft release, and I mean everyone from AAA to indie, gets in there. I get it for, quote, free, and all of its DLC and expansions are a part of it. Now, if they were to have added Ubisoft Plus to Xbox Game Pass and they raised to $30, I would be cheering because I wouldn't have to pay $20 for that and potentially $30 for Game Pass. I would get everything for $30 and Call of Duty. But I want to get your thoughts on this because I think that her talking about this internally and The Verge getting their hands on this, whether it be a controlled leak or not, is literally tapping into the pulse of the gaming community. This has been a hot topic for a long time, and certainly since the price was raised. I actually think this is another solid step forward for Asha Sharma and the newly formed Team Xbox. I want to get your thoughts on this, man.
I'll never be on the side of, being okay with prices going up. Like, I just don't get that. Every time we see Netflix's prices go up, it trends. People are livid, right? It's like the way Xbox Game Pass went up, like, it should bother people. Like, especially in this climate, I don't know why people would want to pay more, but the way, like, I'll put it like this: in the UK, you used to be able to get 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for around £35 on Amazon. Now it's about £69. Like, that's ridiculous, And like, there's things in Game Pass Ultimate that we don't know how much it costs them, right? The Fortnite thing, right?
I think the Fortnite thing is $10, and I don't know what the Ubisoft thing is priced. I mean, what could it be, like $8 maybe? So it's like $18 worth of value, but it does, again, it's no value for me.
Yeah, like, I don't play Fortnite, and when they announced that and when they implemented it, I thought, you know what? Just for a laugh, I'll download Fortnite and I'll see what this is about. By the way, that game has the worst user interface of all time. My God in heaven. It's like they looked at a phone book and thought, right, we need to make our UI look like that. But like, I was like, I don't like this isn't for me. So if I don't play Fortnite, I'm getting this battle pass that I don't use. So I'm not getting any extra value, but the price went up. Okay. And then there's the Ubisoft thing, right? And for people that have listened to me for a long time, I tend to play a lot of Ubisoft games. I have a lot of them, right?
Me
So
too.
like I looked at that list of games and shocker to no one, I have almost every single game on that list. So like, for me, I'm like, okay, well, so the price went up and I personally got nothing. So that was a bit of a shame, you know. Um, but like the price is going up. It affected a lot of people. People told me that like they were priced out, right? So like I think them. Look, I've seen people go back and forth saying a subscription service is never going to lower the price.
Oh, I don't think so. I think there's some change coming.
Yeah, the reason why I think they would is because you look at the numbers and like you mentioned, like Black Ops 6 like cost them $300 million. I don't know how that makes sense. Like you said, Black Ops 6 sold the most copies. It did really bloody well at launch. So I don't.
Gangbuster numbers, brother, on every front.
Yeah, and we were all talking about Black Ops 6 all the time when that came out. Like everyone was talking about Black Ops 6. There was so much hype around that game. And even me as a single player game, I was playing the multiplayer in that game and I loved it. But like with the current situation, like they have to do something, right? Now, honestly, I'm not a person that designs subscription services, so I don't know. But like maybe they could do it so there could be like an a la carte situation where you could select what you want. I know that would be difficult for selling codes, but like they have to do something because like a lot of people told me they were priced out. Even the price that they advertise, you just look at it on paper and it looks a lot, you know. And I've seen people say, but you get day one games, right? That's true, but we got day one games before the price went up. So, like, it's a weird situation. And also, there's another thing that's in Game Pass Ultimate that I don't know how many people use. And off the fact that I don't use it because I own every single player game on there. That's EA Play. That is the only game subscription service I see literally no one talk about. No one talks about that subscription service because you add like 2 games a year in the sports titles, So they have to really do something. I think that, if you're Microsoft and you want Game Pass to grow, like you have a couple of options. You increase the value, but like increasing the price the way they did, like subscription services do this all the time where they'll increase the price $1 or $2 or £1 or £2, and people will roll their eyes, right? And they'll just get on with it. Like let's take me with Disney Plus, right? When Disney Plus was first announced for the UK, you could get 1 year of Disney Plus for £72, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this service all the time. I'll get it, right? And that's all these subscription services are. You look at the price, you look at the value proposition and see how often you use it, right? So when it came to Disney Plus, I was like, I'm going to use this, and I got my money's worth. And then when they raised the price again, I rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, fair enough. £110 a year, not bad. And now it's like £150 a year or something. And I use Disney Plus every day, so I still get my money's worth. But if it goes up significantly more, I'll not subscribe anymore. But like with Game Pass Ultimate, people have to look at it as a value proposition. There's people that are going to listen to this right now, and they think, look, they get all that value. They might play Fortnite. They use the Battle Pass. They use the discounts, and discounts is a big thing of Game Pass. Like they might use every single aspect of it, so they don't see a problem with it. But for a service to grow, you need to have a competitive price. And then to have a competitive price, they really need to lower it down a little bit, right?
They absolutely do.
More games in, nice. Putting more third-party day one games in, nice for all of us subscribers. But to get new people in the door and to get people to really stay subscribed for years, you have to price yourselves competitively because we're in a market now where, look, a PlayStation is going to cost $900. Right, GPUs are costing like $4,000, right? It's stupid, right? So the last thing you want to tell the gamer is that, hey, you want to have access to these games day one that you've been paying for years already. You want to have access to your, Xbox Live multiplayer. Maybe we'll not, charge you a couple of blood diamonds. They need to do something. I think they will, because I do like the moves that's happening so far with Asha Sharma. Again, actions have to be shown first, but like so far, I like what I'm hearing. And like you said, that email did come off as a a deliberate
A controlled leak.
Yeah, controlled leak.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was controlled leak all over the place. like how do you leak something like that? But like, it is Microsoft. Look, I'm optimistic about the situation. I'll put it that way.
Great stuff. Listen, Umbra, before I bring you in, brother, I have another block of information that I want to read that's incredibly important to the context of the conversation that we're having. So Tom goes on to say in his Verge article, which I have already added to the show notes, folks, over the weekend, Windows Central's Jez Corden hinted that Microsoft might be about to take Call of Duty out of Xbox Game Pass. Quote, if they take Call of Duty out of Game Pass this year, which is a possibility from what I've heard, I think it will be kind of reveal some of the cracks in the strategy. Now, he said this during the Xbox 2+1 podcast. And this is where it gets very interesting, though. Sharma references the, quote, online chatter about rumors of Microsoft changing Xbox Game Pass and its pricing. And she says she'll go, quote, deeper with the Xbox employees next week, meaning that there's going to be another town hall meeting concerning Xbox Game Pass happening next week. The article goes on to say, I wouldn't expect any immediate price changes in the coming days, but it certainly seems that Sharma is aware of the Game Pass pricing issues and is getting ready to address them in the coming weeks. This is important. And again, it's just one of those things that, yes, this is only her 7th week in the position, but Umbra, to be fair, he has made some pretty big, substantial moves, and this appears to be another one. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this, man.
Yeah, Boom. Listen, my skepticism of Miss Sharma.
Yes,
but I mean, I would be lying if I said that brother's eyebrows haven't raised a few times over these past weeks. Where I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she is here for the right reasons and everything. I don't know. I will say, I mean, everything to the contrary seems to have been happening, right? Everything seems to be, the very opposite of what I was believing. So I can't say just now. I have my doubts, and I still don't, exactly trust the higher ups. But I mean, I don't have any proof to back up my disbelief or skepticism, right? So everything has been working well when it comes to that. I actually had a thumbnail that I'm using for this week's show that frames Asha in a very saint-like way, but it's asking.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh, it looks good. It's as I titled it, "In Asha We Trust."
Oh, I like that. That's a good title, dude.
You all like the image too. But so we talk about Asha and the move she's made. Xbox, the team they've made, right? And as far as how things could work when it comes to, for one, we talk about exclusivity, and which ties to this obviously, and also Game Pass pricing. So to that point, like you mentioned beforehand, Game Pass jumped 50% with Call of Duty going to it. Ridiculous, right? It went from 20 to 30. All of us, I remember myself. Ferris says strike 62. Well, wasn't I on 37 last time? How did I go up?
Man, that's a lot. That's double. That's 50%.
So I remember you mentioned the whole 50% jump. I remember when it happened way back, we were all talking about what is acceptable, what would be the breaking point for us. as in terms of pricing that would have like, I'm not doing this for Game Pass anymore. And I believe I said I wouldn't pay 30. I'm still with that, mind you. Now I still have Ultimate until I believe later this year. I believe later this year in November or something like that, right? And that's the end for me. Now I can get PC Game Pass, and I'll still be good. It'll still be a reasonable price point, which is likely what I'll do. But for those who are on console, you got $30. That's not going to work out for anybody if in the long term. That's a lot of money to pay, to try to keep that service, and especially if you don't play some of these types of games. For me, that game is Call of Duty. Boom. And you've heard me say this before. I respect it. I even like some of the single player, the single player portions, the campaigns, but I don't play in the multiplayer. I mean, I just don't do it. I don't have the motivation to keep playing those. And honestly, I suck in Call of Duty, just being real, because I haven't put time into it, right? Over the years, I just like, yeah, Halo is for me, right? So they would be wise to have a kind of a la carte kind of situation where we can pick and choose, have a baseline, right? Like I shout out to Pragmatic. Well, I would shout him out, but he dissed Unreal Engine, so no, never mind. But to that person who shall not be named, said charge $15, etc. That's the core pricing, right? So the core pricing is 15, which gives you some of the exclusives and such. Give us that and allow us to pick and choose the titles we want a la carte through that way. Like, oh, you can add this tier or that tier. Give us a tier system within that where we can add to that keeps us reasonably instilled inside the zeitgeist of getting these first party titles without us having to spend supreme amounts just because Call of Duty was added. I guess you can kind of see that the writing was on the wall when we heard rumor about how the sales weren't hitting the way they wanted with Call of Duty since it was added to Game Pass. We started seeing reports about that. And
right,
and people were questioning, well, how would this work? They're losing out on these sales. It's the same kind of conversation you have with the exclusivity thing, in that the ends didn't justify it, or the means didn't justify the ends, because they're not getting their ROI. And I would imagine if they're going back or thinking of going back to exclusivity, then clearly they must not have sold enough to offset the loss of sales and things like that, and maybe customers on first party or in general, I would imagine, right? Because people would have deviated and said, well, why do I need an Xbox? So I feel like this has to happen here with this too, in that they give us reasonable pricing. It's smart that they're talking about it. From what I understand, that memo that she had right there, was that supposed to be internal only?
yes.
Or is that how they're playing it? I mean, it's too obvious on the nose. Like, don't share this out, guys. Wink. And then, it got out. Oh, yes, we're trying to be price conscious for customers. How did you guys let that get out? Yeah, sure. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obviously a stage thing they wanted people to get, right? Which is cool. Give us something. Give us some tangibles. Give us something that makes us say, yeah, I'm liking this. I'm liking what I'm hearing here. So that's cool with me. Again, go to a la carte kind of situation where you can kind of bolt on what you want, and I think it'll work just fine. Games like a Call of Duty does nothing for me. Matter of fact,
That's fair.
if they said Fortnite and all this and the League of Legends, I don't care about that either.
Me either.
Take them away. I don't care. Give me, if that's going to take off a few dollars for me, I'll take it. Take it off. Yeah, then they got other tiers too. We already heard about the ad supported tier, right? They, even I think the cloud tier that they were talking about, right? Which that is the cloud tier. Yeah, never mind. The ad tier is the cloud tier, and we still haven't got. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't gotten the family plan yet, right?
No, and that hasn't been mentioned, but I'm sure that it's something that they're going to revisit, because it was a lot of people really liked it. I don't know how they can make it financially appealing for them, for the shareholders, but it certainly would. I mean, there's a lot of people in this chat that have been talking and asking about this for years, dude.
Yeah. And that's why I guess because I've heard it talked about so often, I figured they must have done it by now. But yeah, they haven't. Like that seems like the most obvious thing that they should have done by now.
Yeah.
A family tier. And it seemed like I remember some reports about it being, talked about. So I don't know what happened, and maybe it fell through. But I feel like that would be the right way to go. A family tier at 30, where you still get the Call of Duty or whatever, or 35 or whatever, 40. That can work. You could split that up with a few people and say, yeah, I'll pay 45 or something like that. Can work with that. But you can't expect people that's, the singularly playing these to be paying these exorbitant prices. It's just not going to work. Something's going to have to give, and and that's on top of us having this this like subscription fatigue, right? I mean, we talked about cutting the cable. That was a real strong point because cable had got out of control. The cost for having, I'm not sure where you all will get over where you're at, but like Comcast, Xfinity for me, and other cable services, it became like, man, this is ridiculous. I'm paying an arm and a leg. Well, that's become the new norm now for subscriptions. We've traded one, ridiculous thing for another now. I mean, hell, YouTube just went up in pricing. Oh, we had to got an email. It's like, oh, we're sorry to let you know. Or not sorry. They said they're not going to apologize. They said, we have to let you know the pricing structure has changed to give you benefits. I'm like, this is not benefiting me. Like, you can dress it up however you want, but I'm not using some of these features you're talking about. And I'm already paying up the wazoo, as they would say. I'm paying even more now. The problem is YouTube Premium is so fundamental to me now. It's tough to just throw it away. So now I'm like, I'm stuck. Then you got Netflix, you got your Hulus, and you got your HBO Maxes or whatever they've changed the name to this week. You got all these other services. You got the Apple Plus, TV, whatever. You got all these different things you're dealing with on top of trying to pay for, a Game Pass. Something's going to have to give. Somebody's going to weigh that out and say, I can't afford this. And Game Pass could be that thing. So they're going to have to find a way to make that work. We did hear tell also about them maybe working with Netflix to include that into a tier. That would be dope too. Right? If they can make that work, absolutely. But they have to find a way to make that work, man. And if she's talking like that, and that's what they're talking like internally, then hey, that's a W right there. And I'm willing to bite my own words when it came to the, I guess, the slander of Asha. If this turns out to be a positive and she's actually like there to turn things around. So that's my little 2 cents. In Paris, take away those strikes. I don't like that.
And shout out to Paris, which, by the way, showed up on the We Bleed Green podcast and called out his haters. Paris, I love that you showed a little bit of your fangs. We like being gentlemen, but sometimes people push you. And I saw your tweet, with your Helix gear, and you should be proud of that. And the truth of the matter is, and this is giving, I don't have to give him his flowers, but I enjoy doing it. There is nothing that Paris gets for free. The guy breaks his ass in this community. Yeah. Does he like to kind of poke the bear a little bit? Sure, we all do. But everything that he has gotten, everything he's been invited to, I don't think that he got there because, it's Paris Lily. No, he did the interviews. He did the work. He started a YouTube channel super late in his career because he worked with Danny for years. So, yeah, I like that you called out. Yeah, and again, it's not something I normally do either. I know it's a little out of character for you because these are just jealous POSs, right? And at some point they're gonna make POS of the week for Dirt, which is one of my favorite segments in gaming, to be honest with you. But yes, it is absolutely envy, Paris, and just people are just ugly, man. They just really are. But you know what? Great to see you here as always, brother. Can't wait to catch up in June. But look, let me just make sure I'm up to date on Super Chats, and then we're going to get everyone the heck out of here. It's been a longer show than we thought. I thought it was going to go 90 minutes. I thought we had 3 topics, but these have been really solid, well-thought-out opinions from not only the chat, but the gentlemen on the panel, as always. So let me just catch up on super chats and then we will keep it moving. We have here. Okay, now I'm gonna mess up this name. Simps TV Gaming. Listen, if I ruined it, I apologize. I am terrible with names, but he has become a channel member, and that's very kind of you, bro. We certainly appreciate it because new channel members, gifted subs, channel, super chats, they all go to doing what Mrs. Boom and I really enjoy doing, and that is giving back to the community. And like I said in the opening, and I'll say on the closing, this Friday's Breakfast with Boom is one not to miss because we are, meaning Mrs. Boom and I, are going to purchase 10 copies of Sad Cats Studios Replaced to give away. And all you got to do to win is simply be in the chat. You don't got to be a channel member. You don't got to drop a super chat. You don't have to gift a sub. Hell, you don't even got to be sub to the channel. You simply got to be in the chat, put the hashtag that we have under lock and key and that we will reveal Friday morning. And if you're picked, you win. We send you the code and you go crazy and you play that you own the game. But we are doing it for two reasons. One, we like helping the indie community, and Replaced looks like a game that I'm going to beat multiple times because I'm an old man and I remember games like Flashback, and it's giving me those flashback kind of feels. I freaking can't. It's downloaded. As soon as this show is done, I'm heading over to hang out with Replaced. But again, we like doing this because we are able to do it thanks to the generosity of this incredible community, and that's why we want to continue to give back to you guys and gals. Nino Vestic, who has gifted another double barrel gaming membership. That is very kind of you. And he's done this pretty much every day that we have a live stream. Nino, that is incredible generosity, brother. And we are always going to be grateful. So thank you so much for that. As my car drives through the body bag, you saw that. That was pretty crazy. And Scott Gamer Dude drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. And Scott says, hello, Boom and panel. Someone posted that the dashboard adds a dashboard ad for sales on Xbox consoles. Did you get that ad? I did not. I don't know if that's specifically targeted towards older hardware players. I know that it has happened. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I mean, listen, Grand Theft Auto is around the corner. Everybody's going to want to upgrade. Well, I don't say everybody, but a good portion of older generation players who have been playing on PS4, PS4 Pros, and Xbox One X and S consoles are going to have to upgrade to play Grand Theft Auto 6. And this is an opportunity for Microsoft to say, hey, we know that you want to play Grand Theft Auto 6, but we have bangers this year. And somebody that is on old PS4 hardware might have been an Xbox 360 player. And if you show Gears of War E-Day, someone may get the feels like, oh my God, I remember when I saw Gears of War on the Xbox 360 and I went out and bought one. And my God, it was incredible. You might get someone to upgrade to what is the cheapest upgradable hardware, and that's the Series S. The Series S is going to play Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, is it going to play better than the Pro? Well, of course it's not. The Pro is a mid-generation console, and the Series S has been out since 2020. But to be fair, and I think, Jamie, you actually said this last week, Rockstar has not released a game that had a crap port. So if it's going to run on the Series S just fine. But thank you so much for the additional generosity. Your baby's Farva drops a very generous $5 super chat. It says the worst thing about YouTube going up is creators are kind of double dipping and doing ad reads. No offense, guys, LOL, but I pay to skip commercials. I mean, I occasionally will throw one of our partnered commercials in a video. I don't normally do the ad reads here anymore because, people want to hear the podcast. So that's why I save them for the videos. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's a YouTube channel that I listen to every day because I'm a Steelers fan, right? I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I've been watching the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1976. Like I'm an old man. And I mean, it's called Steelers Talk. Subscribe to him. He has over 100K subscribers. Excellent reporter. I like the dude a lot. But every episode, there's an ad read, man. And I'm like, oh my God. So I fast forward through it. I'm not going to front. I really do. So I hear what you're saying. Yeah, baby's father. Thank you so much for that. And again, I have been offered by YouTube to add additional ads. I won't do it. I pay for premium, so I don't watch the ads, and I'm not adding any additional stuff. Like, you know, there'd be like a timeout during the podcast and you watch a commercial. I'm not about that life. So appreciate the generosity, but let's get everyone out of here. The Elusive Gamer, Jamie Moran, you have a show later tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with yourself and Logan Meyer, called the All Things Xbox Podcast. And I would imagine you're going to be covering a lot of the news that we talked about today, plus potential Splinter Cell talk, as well as Mass Effect worked into the conversation. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people tune in tonight to see you and Logan break down what could be upwards of 12 plus topics?
Well, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. So, yeah, All Things Xbox podcast on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel. Exclusively make Xbox content, and I try to talk about Mass Effect at every given opportunity. I will probably lose my mind at some point tonight about the Mass Effect TV show that's in development, because it will ruin my life. Not really, but seriously.
Hopefully not, man.
But yeah, and Splinter Cell comes up every week. And we've heard nothing for years, so I'll probably have a mental breakdown about that as well. It'll be wonderful. But yeah, we're going to be talking about, you know, Final Fantasy and stuff. And Metro 2039, big topic. I cannot wait for this game. And also Xbox's new first look format. We're going to be talking about that as well. But yeah, that's 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel. I also do Twitter, which is Jamie Moran UK, and that's exclusively gaming and jokes.
Shout out to Stanley Francisco in the chat. So thank you so much for being here, brother. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. He goes on to say, great damn show, fellas. Well, thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say, and welcome. It's a name I haven't seen before. So if you are new and you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing, because Mrs. Boom and I are nearly under 200 away from 17K, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a freaking lot of subscribers, and you can help us continue to grow. And I'm hoping, because this is the 25th anniversary of Xbox, and because we have 3 Xbox shows per week, that we might even grow more. I'd love to say, yeah, we're going to hit 20 by end of year. Listen, we're happy to get 1,000 subscribers per year. Some years we do 2,000-3,000. Some years we do 1,200. But again, if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. But infinite number, let's have the brand of the fix. Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. with yourself, Crusader, and Daniel J. McGee. Talk about it, brother. And obviously, you're already working the angles for this week's podcast, where you're going to be talking about Asha Sharma. And even though you've been apprehensive, I think we've come to an understanding that, yes, we still have to have a wait and see, you know, thought and ideology. She has been doing some pretty bombastic moves, man.
Yeah, she has, man. I have to admit, thank you, your baby father. Your baby father. I feel like it's feel like you gotta say it like you're New Jersey and
yeah.
That's your baby father there. Be careful. You want some?
I know some Jerseyans that speak like that. Not my brother though, who lives in Jersey, but I've heard that.
I've always loved the name. I'm like, your baby father. But shout out to you. Thank you for subbing. And then anyone else who hadn't subbed, please click on the link and sub, and also to Jamie, of course. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Boom. Yeah, we're gonna have a good show this Thursday. I cashed in some of my strikes from Paris for the day, Boom. And
very nice.
I cashed in some of them, and he'll be joining us Thursday for the.
Oh, that's awesome, dude! Great, yeah. Excellent.
I figured I would parlay that into this. I'm going to ignore anything I see with UE5 slander. I'm not even going to.
Well, if I may say so, Why So Serious says RE Engine is still better than UE5.
Listen, I mean, listen. Some people just don't have the vision. I get it. I get it. Why So Serious? I get it. Pragmatic. who shall not be fully named. You all don't understand the greatness that is UE.
Like
I get it.
Voldemort.
I get it. Right. Yeah, you like Voldemort now. You are persona non grata. I'm just gonna be like him in the chat. Yeah, but hey, Colin, no, why would you jump into it?
What about Music 72? He likes to poke the bear. What engine isn't better than UA? This is getting ridiculous now. I feel like I'm watching the One Man Dark Man, where people consistently abuse poor Dirt Griggity on his own show.
You get it. You see, these guys are just trying to, what would Dirt say? You piece of ass. Dun, dun, dun. Anyhow, shout out to Dirt. But yeah, we're gonna have a good show this Thursday, man. We would definitely be covering the Asha situation. I got to show you the thumbnail. Boom, I'll send it to you in a while.
I can't wait to see it. I love good thumbnails. It was the hardest thing for me to do, being a podcaster. Like, it's so difficult.
For sure. And like it's crazy actually when I think about it, how much time I know I put into it when I actually get into in creating a new thumbnail for the week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll spend hours like really trying to craft something nice. But yeah, so it's going to be a really good show this Thursday. I want you guys to come by. Like Boom said, it's 8:00 p.m. Eastern. We'll go live 7:00 for my time, obviously Central. But yeah, we're gonna have a good show. Paris will be joining us, and and myself, Crusader, and Danny. We're gonna try to. I always say this: we're gonna try to keep it to within 2 hours, but I already know how we're gonna be. So come by, join us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun discussion. Come by. No UE5 slander will be tolerated there, though. Just a warning for anyone who
you might have to time some people out. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Well, listen, gentlemen, appreciate you being here. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us for over 2 hours. We hope that you enjoyed the show enough to hit the like button. Share it on the socials if you don't mind. And I have 2 videos going up. One at 3, one at 7. One, of course, is about Call of Duty being taken out of Xbox Game Pass. I don't even remember what the second one. Oh yeah, the second one is is a video about Fable being delayed, but I don't think it's the Xbox version being delayed, ladies and gentlemen. I actually think that it's the PlayStation 5 version. I break it down in the video as to why I do think it is going to be, and should be, to be honest with you, delayed indefinitely. Again, we talked about it to open up the show. Exclusives matter. Timed exclusivity is a have your cake and eat it too moment for Xbox. And if they do it right, everybody wins, right? Xbox players feel like first-class citizens, as they should. The console sells. Priority gets back into Xbox, as it should. And PlayStation gamers, if they don't want to wait for a year or a year and a half, they can buy an Xbox or they can play on the PCs that they own. And again, this is a moment. It's a moment in time that you don't get a lot of these. People will be upgrading. People are going to be forced to upgrade to new consoles because of Grand Theft Auto. Xbox just needs to take advantage of that. Use the leverage of your hardware, which, of course, the entry price is the cheapest that you can get into next generation gaming. And they have bangers to back it up and the best service available in gaming. If the marketing team has been changed, and I really hope that it has, and I'll put this out there. My LinkedIn is open. I'll give you the million idea for free. Just give me 45 minutes in the boardroom, and I will tell you how you can make Xbox great again, and you can also win in profits. Give me the 45 minutes. Fly me out, pay for my room, and I'll give you the idea for free. Not a problem. But that's going to do it for us here. A big thank you to the whopping amount of super chats, gifted subs, and channel member chats that we have today on for today's podcast. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful. Tune in on Friday morning with the new Breakfast at Boom, as we are giving away 10 copies of Replaced by Sad Cat Studios. And of course, FYI, we are buying those with our own money and we are giving them away. We have not even contacted Sad Cat Studios, and we're not going to, because we're just doing this because A, We want to thank you for being so generous, and we want to help a small indie developer, and we don't need a pat on an ass from them to, for recognition. We're just happy to do it. But that's going to do it for us, everybody. I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. He'd say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. Gentlemen,